Do you want to speaking into the, because of
Yes.
the program?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't have to
So,
press anything. You just talk and you're good to go.
the following agenda will be considered by CDBG at their meeting here on the 18th of 2024. Notice this meeting is given in pursuit to Arizona Revised Statute Section 38-431.02. I'm calling this meeting to order at 1:31. And roll call, we do have a quorum. We're missing, because of a December meeting, a couple of our board members. But let's start, Ginger, start with your name and present.
Ginger Cutting here.
Debbie Savoini here.
Marianne Settles.
John Paris here.
All right, all in and accounted for. So minutes from our November 20th Citizens Committee meeting. I'm hoping everybody's gone over them. Questions? And if there's any discussion other than that, I'm looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the November 2024 meeting.
I need a second.
A second. Excuse me, a second.
Deb Savoini, second. All those approve, raise your hand. And those minutes have been taken care of. Sue, Michael, you're going to do B?
Yes, Madam Chair. It's going to be a short presentation, and then this is going to turn into more of a working meeting regarding our grading rubric for program year 2025's CDBG applicants. Just a quick update on that. The application period is now open. It opened a couple days ago, I believe on Monday. It was Monday, yep. And it'll remain open through January 31st. I imagine we'll start seeing applications really come in after the holiday is usually how it works. And our meeting, we'll have a meeting in January, but in February is the presentation. So everybody that submits an application, they'll have an option to do a presentation to this committee. During that meeting, at that time, you would have already seen the applications and had a chance to use this rubric that we're working on today to kind of preliminary grade the applications. But those presentations, again, another opportunity to do some due diligence, ask questions about different projects and activities that might come forward. So again, that is the plan for today. Just looking at this rubric, I do want to start with this was something that that I brought up. I talked about it right from when I first started working at the city. Is do we ever want to look at this rubric, see if we can make updates or changes? Didn't do it in the first year. Going in the second year, have an opportunity to look at it, and especially with some new members, kind of a good opportunity to see what it looks like, ask questions. I also want to reiterate that things from my perspective as city staff, it seems to be a pretty smooth process. Reinventing the wheel is something that I don't know is the a good option, but definitely looking where we can improve. But just my 2 cents there from my experience working with this committee. So what you have before you, if you don't already, or I think everybody's looking at it, is the application evaluation worksheet, our grading sheet from last year. This is exactly what we used last year. Right from the get-go, you have the first 3 questions. They need to answer in the affirmative, or they don't, they're not appropriate they're not eligible. Those 3 questions well, this is for the greater, can you fairly judge this application without a conflict of interest? We could talk about that either today or at a later meeting. Does the project or activity benefit low and moderate income persons? They have to be able to answer yes to that. Is the project or activity within Prescott city limits? And they have to be affirmative on that. Now, that last one, there are organizations that headquarters are outside the city limits, but their activities happen within the city of Prescott. For example, like People Who Care, New Horizons, stuff like that. And then that's our rubric. Just going down the list. Here, you also have a box to make comments. I'm going to give you, well, each individual committee member fills out these rubric sheets, not to work alone individually, and then they submit them to me at the city, and I average up the totals for each project, and then I kind of put a report together so everybody can see the averages of each project. You will never see someone else's grade sheet. So anonymity, I can't say that word, but that word is very important. What I'm going to hand out now is kind of the finished project, the averaging out of these grade sheets, just to give you an idea of what it looks like.
Thank you.
So this is just public service.
So are the red pens for us to mark on these to submit our suggested changes? Sorry.
So at the
You have an
extra sheet? Oh, yeah, for sure.
And let me slide in here. These sheets come after your presentation.
After February.
Right.
Okay.
Your presentation, we will have packets. Those people come in, we're able to note and do some different things. These come after.
Question, would we turn these in to Mike in March?
Sooner.
Sooner. I give you about a week to do it. So thinking is you have these applications before the presentations, so you're pretty close to knowing which direction you're going to go. But the presentations after, again, that extra opportunity to, change anything if you feel it needs to be changed. So about a week after that presentation meeting, I get them, and then we move pretty quick. March is when the committee makes their decisions. So,
Another quick question, do we know how many applicants at this point in time?
good question. It's tough. I suspect there'll be 10 to 12 applicants for public service.
Okay.
I suspect 2 to 3 for construction. Remembering public service is the smaller bucket. It's only going to be like maybe 40,000 and then construction, the larger bucket. Now this one again, what I just handed out, this is the finished product, and this is just the public service activities that applied, and how it works out after I receive the grading, I do the averages. There is a subcommittee that breaks out early March that looks over everything, and then the subcommittee comes to a regular committee with final decisions, hearing feedback from the rest of the committee. What we did differently last year, which the city council appreciated, said it in their annual action plan presentation to them, is they liked that the committee just awarded the top 3. In the past, there's so many, and there's so many good projects. the council felt that it was spreading a lot of money or whatnot thin, and they did appreciate, the top three for public service went forward. Yes,
But it doesn't always, if you begin to look at the funds that are requested as to what was selected, you weren't quite even halfway with them.
yes.
The point was the larger amount of money was going to do better for that project than a 5,000 or a 6,000 or something down. But I think it depends on the organization and how you rate it.
You'll see comments on the farthest column, and again, all those comments are put together, that are on your ranking sheets and for consideration during the ranking process. Okay, I'm going to do one last handout before you guys get into the nitty gritty of any modifications. What I have here is a sample of another CDBG program that I thought was pretty good. It's pretty honestly similar, kind of like the format of it. And so I'm going to hand that out to you guys before y'all jump in.
A quick question, this sample two, Mike, is this from 2024? Okay. Thank you.
So yes, that's a real.
Okay.
So I have a question. So I always thought that this mirrored exactly what they put into their application. This takes a lot more extrapolation to be able to award these points. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think so. Let me. Our grading sheet or our rubric is specific to our application. How other communities do that, that one is relevant. The one that I just handed out, the example, is relevant to their application as well. Oh,
I guess I should come up there.
yeah, come here.
I just had a question on the current rubric. Does it not allow, as this one does, for administrative scoring from city staff?
Our application doesn't allow for it. It's all committee, no administrative ranking in the example.
Did you, because it looks like the administrative component is fairly significant on this one.
As city staff goes, which is basically me, the only where I come in is if an application, I do review all the applications. If it doesn't meet eligibility standards for HUD, I let them know. But it's pretty open. Our application process is pretty open.
Okay. I was just curious because it seems like the most substantial difference between the two.
Right. And one thing I'll say about every city does it different. There is a HUD template, but it's strictly a template. There are different ways to do this in different communities. Some communities don't do it all at one time. It's more of an open process where they're just taking in applications as they go. There's some communities that actually do like an RFP process like that and bypass like any sort of committee or whatnot. HUD really gives us a lot of flexibility on how we do it. But I do think it's important that and with the, once we're done with this meeting, as many red marks as possible on your sheets to hand to me so I can make adjustments, but that it has to match our application. What's in our application, is reflected in your rubric. Does that make? Yeah.
So my next question is, how did we come up with that, the one that we're the application process now. Where did that come? Is that the template?
It is the application that we have now was the one that was existing before. So from previous years, and then through HUD's, they have guidebooks that have sample applications. Also, looking at other jurisdictions and whatnot. Our application this year, I tried to make it a little bit more user friendly. And so I did look at some other communities and what their applications look like. HUD really wants, the questions that HUD wants answered is the applicant benefiting low to moderate income people? Like, that's big. Like, are they in good standing? Financial auditing is a big part of their application process as well. That they're registered for sam.gov to get their unique entity ID number. So there's a bunch of things that we have to ask for. I think our application goes a little bit beyond what's needed, and I'm trying to simplify it too, because I don't like big applications. So,
And that sounds like government.
yeah,
It's checking off those boxes.
that's correct.
And then this other is more getting into the nitty gritty. I do like the staff capacity to manage the program that's offered on that example, because some of these are small organizations, and do they have the ability to manage the program? And the experience with federal grant management, I think that's, and I see the previous experience with other federal funds, I guess would be the very close to that. And the project budget are leverage funds secured. And we ask if they have matching funds, but we're not asking if it's been secured.
That's correct.
So I think that would be, I'd like to see that added, because I think that is critical to make sure, especially if you get a organization that's new, that has not received funds in the past, then we want to see that they are able to follow through, so that it doesn't just, trial and error.
And to that point, I added that this year to the application. So I'm glad you brought it up,
Okay.
because that is a question on the application. Matching funds, are the funds being presented, are they secured?
Right.
So that's on there. So that could be something for sure.
Do they, on their application, do you ask them how big their program is, how many staff they have?
There is a section, it's a text box that describes implementation, and it gets into staff.
Okay,
It gets into staff who's going to be involved.
okay.
So there's a section they can answer that.
And then we would receive that application? Okay, so
You'll
we
get the
that
full
in-
application.
Okay,
So again, mark it up. We can spend as much time as y'all would like on this. If there's anything big or
Can we start with the project description? Because that's 40 points, organizations 40 points, and your budget and timeline's another 20. We want to end up with 100 points, correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
So when you pick and choose, one doesn't have to be a 10, it can be an 8, but you've got to add that to another project. So I want to start with your description. I think how you broke that down into how clearly they give that need, whether they are Prescott residents, and is it clear and concise? That's pretty easy. Everybody agree?
Okay.
So let's get down to the organization capacity, and I think, Debbie, you saw some things you want to change.
I just feel when I've done these reviews in the past, that project includes matching funds. Many of them are small programs and don't have matching funds, so they end up with a 0 for me. So I'd like to change that 10 to a 5, and then add 3 to previous experience with federal funds. I'd like that to be a 5 rather than a 2, because I think that's more important than matching. And then financial statements, current and in good standing, from an 8 to and add a 2 there and make that a 10, because I think that's really important too. Not so much that matching funds. So that's on my red sheet.
What do you think?
Would you say that one more time, please?
Okay, so matching funds is a 10.
Okay,
I want it to be a 5. I'm suggesting it be a 5.
got it.
And then I have 5 points that I have to redistribute. So I'm going to take that 3 and put it on other federal funds, experience with other federal funds, and then the 2 with financial statement and in good standing. So then I still come up with 40.
Okay.
And the project includes secured matching funds?
Secured, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, got it.
And do we want to say anywhere in here about the staff capacity to manage the program? We'd be taking away.
Let's see.
Or are you just looking at the application and we'd consider that?
Let me bring in George on that one with his experience. No,
Use your good eye, George.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
George.
need you up here. So the question is, this is George Worley, our planning manager, forever.
For now.
The question is regarding our rubric sheet, should there be a separate section for city staff to have input or to
Is that your question, or is the
No.
No.
question is in relation to the staff capacity of the applicant?
Organization.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm
So
sorry.
What you've got is previous experience with CDBG or other grant funds. And then you've got another previous experience with other federal funds. Could you combine the CDBG or other federal funds and have a separate line for staff capacity?
Yes.
So that gets that 5, and the
Yeah.
line above it, organization has previous experience with CDBG or other federal funds, or other grant funds, actually, doesn't matter if they're federal.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Where's my pen? Where was that?
So, let me get, so this one,
Organization has previous experience with CDBG or other grant funding.
and then this one becomes a question about organizational staff capacity.
Okay.
To administer
Okay.
a grant if received.
And I would, again, agree that it should be 5, at least a 5.
Yeah. To
Keep it
balance
at
out
5.
the experience
Keep-
and the capacity.
Because you had
Yeah.
3, okay.
That's a good call.
Okay. Organizational
I think that
staff.
goes to-
Was
I
that-
think that's
to
exactly.
your concern about them getting the grant and then having to learn from scratch how to manage one.
Right.
And not having staff to do it.
Right.
You've already addressed at least part of it in that you've asked if they've ever had grants before, so we know they can do it.
Right,
And that they have staff.
right, in order to put it together. Good.
Okay.
I think that's good.
I got it.
So they're not being penalized for not applying for the CDBG funds. Because if they hadn't, then we end up giving them a 0.
Correct.
So let's we've taken care of that
You get a plus.
with the new ones. Okay.
You were saying it right there.
So on the line that says past funding resources given, is that, we're not talking, we're talking any funding. Doesn't have to be federal, state, any funding.
It could be private, it could be grant money, it could be somebody else they applied for.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe
it
that needs to
does-
be added.
Does that make any difference though to you, or does the difference being made is that they've gotten money from us before?
No, my question was because what if it's a new agency that comes up and says, hey, I want whatever. And the question is, have they received funding in the past? Are they going to, in my mind, the first thing I would think if I'm doing that is, well, gee whiz, I've never applied for federal funds before. That, so,
I think there would need to be an
Clarify.
explanation that in fact you get a plus for not having applied before. It should be a positive for not having applied before. HUD funding, CDBG specifically, is intended to be an adjunct to something and not a funding source in and of itself.
Okay.
You're supposed to add additional capacity or add additional services using CDBG. It's not your base funding. So someone who says, I've never applied before, it should be a positive. It should be a +5 or something
okay,
rather than a minus. But they need to understand that so that they answer honestly.
okay.
And when I see past funding resources given, I know that they've had experience with meeting deadlines. And it just reinforces that this is an organization that can take this money and appropriately apply it. So I always kind of like to, and it also shows where they're coming from.
I think on the application, though, if you look further up, that one that asks about receiving other grant funding does what you just described.
Okay.
And the one I'm talking about is that you're actually not reliant on CDBG. You're a
Yes,
new
yes.
applicant. New applicants should be
Yes.
encouraged.
Right.
And that's a way to encourage them.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Well,
So you've got both covered with the two different lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
and we're always looking for another organization. And if you look at this list, you recognize every one of these who've been back again and again
Right.
to CDBG because they know what to do.
Right.
They're not put off by the application process, but we are also relatively small, and there is a limited number of potential applicants out there. So we don't see a whole lot of new ones unless someone new is starting up. You're going to get repeats.
And it's the dollars. I mean, we get smaller and
yeah.
smaller
Yeah.
on the public service part. The construction, we can at least do a little bit. So I think getting back to hitting 3 of your top, and they don't have to be the top, they could be the middle or the next, but trying to get that money to them to do more than the smaller amounts. So you've got to decide that, which one to do. That's your option.
More bang for the buck.
Oh,
Maybe, but I also think that there's, and I hear what you're saying about that, and it certainly does make it easier, but I think some of the newer ones probably won't ask for that much because they don't want to, they're just starting. And if they're starting, I think that's great. I actually think some of those people need a leg up and get them used to, get them, starting and get them the ability. I would hate to think that people wouldn't apply because they felt as though they wouldn't be granted something because the same old group always gets it. And I think it's nice to give the folks a leg up. It gives an entrepreneurial type of mentality. Gets everybody thinking positive about helping others.
I had one question on, or anything else on the organizational capacity piece?
We're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
In project budget and timelines, the second box there, documents attached to describe the program and project. I don't know if that's kind of redundant in the sense that they describe it within the application. You know, the only documentation that they're providing really is financial.
Well, but they could provide bids.
They could provide bids.
And I actually bids or rendering, something like that, so we could see what they were looking at doing, I think would be very helpful
Okay.
to kind of envision.
But they don't, you really can't go out for a bid if you don't know that you're not going to get the money.
You could go out for a bid. You could ask for people to
Yeah.
come bid the job so that you'd have an idea of what you're looking for so that you bring it.
What you'll
that's only-
probably get are quotes rather
Quotes.
than a full bid.
Oh, okay,
Exactly.
all right.
So
And we've
they-
seen that.
someone
Yeah,
would
that makes-
quote, but they
Yes.
can't. They won't be held to it until they get funding and a real bid
Right,
occurs.
right.
So
seen that,
what
yeah.
I recall in this, documents are attached are like their brochures. You know, maybe we don't need that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And do we
If
do we ask specifically in the application for attachments, and what types of attachments do we ask for?
We do the attachments that we ask for are financials.
Right.
They're financial statements. If they've been audited in the last year or 2 years, we'd like that audit summary. A lot of these non-for-profits have to be audited, you know, from an outside firm within a year or two. So it's really important.
And maybe you could, in that explanation for the application, in addition to financials, ask if they have any quotes or proposed, bids, renderings, anything like that that might help explain, might help the committee, envision it a little bit better.
For like in the construction piece. So previous years we had 2 applications, one for construction, one for public service. Made it just one this year with certain questions that are specific to construction instead of having 2 separate. I'm going to see how that works instead of having 2 separate ones.
If I were Meals on Wheels and I needed a storage facility and I was at capacity with my storage in my other and preventing classes,
Right.
I would take photos of my storage being at capacity and then maybe a shot of that area outside and add it to my application, just to give a visual on how severe the situation might be. And it wasn't Meals on Wheels, it was the
center.
center, yeah.
Is that part of the application or is that part of the presentation?
They could do. We see that with the presentations. You know, the highlighting the problem that they're facing with visuals. We could require that in the application. Go ahead.
I would require it in the application. I think the presentations to you should be an opportunity for them to emphasize their project, but
Yeah.
not replace information in the application.
I agree.
So ask for it in the application, and then have them emphasize the things they're going to do during the presentation. And we strongly encourage all of them to make a presentation to you. We can't make them, but we encourage it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think they should if they're asking.
It's a perfect opportunity to sales pitch your organization and what
Absolutely.
you intend to do. So
Yeah.
why not?
Right.
And most of the time they do.
Yeah.
We've had very few who've
And
declined.
as a committee, if somebody did not do a presentation, they did the application, didn't do a presentation, in the back of my mind,
Yeah, that would leave some questions.
right,
We have to be careful about how that happens, which is one reason why we use a score sheet for that and average them, but you're absolutely right.
understood.
Okay, so just getting back, leave that documents attached to describe the program or project. Maybe I can put parentheses for construction projects, maybe, or
Yeah.
yeah, something
Just
like that.
Anything that better,
Yep.
Could help describe what the request is.
see if you can work in the word elucidate.
At least, and the only reason why I'm at, because for the public service, they're not going to have anything in there.
They might,
They
though.
might.
I mean, what if someone like
Okay.
Meals on Wheels said, "Well, this is an example of our meal plan."
Yeah.
I mean, that would be something we wouldn't ask for in an application,
Okay.
but
Right.
maybe that would help you say, "Well, these guys are really working up
Okay.
even higher.
Right.
They're doing better." With
I would let the creativity be upon the applicant
Okay.
to provide that
So
documentation.
leave it. All right. It just stays.
boy, am I glad I said I wasn't going to talk at this.
No, I wanted this. I'm going to. I only have a little bit time left with you.
I'm retiring, not dying.
Whoa.
That's easy for you to say.
No, unfortunately, no. You're right.
So that, Madam Chair, that's from my end. You know, if there's again, please hand in your sheets if you made any modifications. I'll use that to go back and make adjustments on my end.
What do you want to ask?
I want to put public service or construction at the top so we know
Okay.
which
To have them check off which.
The last piece, up top with the questions that, you know,
was gonna
right
pass
from the
it around.
get-go, I do need to put in a question there that ties it in to our 5-year consolidated plan.
Oh, very
So
good.
there would be
Okay,
one
so it'll be a yes/no question. Does the project or activity meet our strategies in our 5-year consolidated plan? So that'll be up there. But that's it. That's all I have on my end. Yes.
But you were going to speak about what the city is doing for a general needs assessment, for community needs assessment.
Right. In the next, if we're done with, if there, in my staff updates next, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay, sorry.
If there's anything else for this item, or we're all satisfied with the rubric. Yep.
Satisfied, but just a question.
Yes.
This was for last year's. 2023, was 2023 exactly like 2024, or were there adaptations to that also?
The minor. I didn't really change it at all. The only thing I think I added those questions up top.
Okay,
That was it.
okay.
The program that we used to create the application was the same in both years, and it had some constraints on it. And we didn't make very many changes because we couldn't make very many changes from year to year, so they were almost identical.
Okay,
Well, thank you. That helps. That gives me some direction on what to change. So we're good. Staff updates. Okay. Our next CAC meeting is January 15th, so middle of January, same time, 1:30 p.m. It'll be a lot of discussion on the 5-year consolidated plan. Where we're at with the 5-year consolidated plan is we're still collecting information data from the community. That needs workshop. A big piece of that was, and you'll see in the minutes why they were so detailed, is that's something I do provide to HUD to show our engagement with the community. And we're listening to them, we're hearing them, and their needs will be part of our our consolidated plan. Also, at that meeting, we're going to do an open house at some point. I think that was done in the last 5-year con plan. I talked with, it might have happened over at the Chamber of Commerce, maybe. Do you remember an open house, Madam Chair, at all? Okay. I'll look more into it and what that would look like. Surveys will have to be going out here. I'll be working on that. We're also fortunate this year through another grant. We have a consulting group, Pollock and Company, that is doing a housing needs assessment, and they're going to be doing a lot of outreach that we'll be able to put in the 5-year consolidated plan too, regarding like affordable housing and stuff like that. In February, another community outreach activity is this CIP. We have a CIP meeting, Collective Impact Partnership. That is the meetings that happen every other month that are non-for-profits that get together and discuss what's going on in their organization. CDBG is going to have an opportunity. I'll be presenting and then kind of just going around the table there. It's usually about like 15 to 20 different non-for-profits and stakeholders. I'm going to ask for some membership or committee members to attend,
I'd like
2 or
that.
3. So I'll be bringing that up. I'll be bringing that.
Got a date for February?
It is February 18th at 1 p.m.
That's
So-
the CIP
At 1 p.m.?
at 1 p.m.
At the library.
at the library,
This one is going to be, it's at Catholic Charities.
Catholic Charities.
Yeah. So only yes, on Gurley, yep. Yeah, so that will be a good one. They'll be done with their pit count and all that stuff, so there'll be time to really focus in on this.
February 18th.
February 18th. I'll bring it up in January because it'd be great to have 3 committee members there,
And 2 o'clock, you said?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, thank you. I'll definitely go.
And the councilman has also raised
Great.
his hand.
That's fantastic. And then the last thing at the January 15th, again, all con plan, fair housing. Fair housing is a piece to this con plan, and we'll probably have a Southwest. I believe they're called Southwest Fair Housing comes out and does a training for the community, and that'll be a piece as well. So. And then that's it. I'll talk on January 15th about how many applicants we have at that point. Usually we'll get applicants coming in all the way to the end of the month and then talk about what the next month is going to look like. This is our CDBG busy time. So that, any questions for me? Let's moving along. Thanks for this was good. I know it's the holidays, but I appreciate we were able to make a quorum and get some of this busy work done, for sure.
Have you given us all the dates? I have February in here. I have January. Do we have all the dates for our meetings throughout the year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You probably have already done that.
And let me know if we'll have a meeting a month through the summer, through June, except for May.
Okay.
Council chambers is moving downstairs, so
Okay.
no meeting in May.
Okay.
I think that's already been taken off the calendar.
Okay.
That's okay. So, yeah.
So we need to adjourn. I've got 2:13. Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second it.
We are adjourned.
All right. Let me grab your sheet.